Hello everybody. We have a game with the black pieces and white opens up with 1e4. We'll play d6. White puts two pawns in the center. We develop a minor piece with an attack on his pawn in the center. Just getting the king's knight out so we can castle. We're pressuring the center. We're playing Mikhail Chernov, rated 1360. It's a pretty strong player, not a newbie. He develops a knight and defends the pawn. That makes a lot of sense. We're going to plant a pawn in the center and take some space for ourselves. Okay, so white pushes past instead of trading, going for the queen trade line. Now that he has the pawn here, I'm going to play c6 and attack the center immediately with a flank pawn. He takes, but now that allows us to recapture towards the center with a pawn and control this very important d5 square from his pieces. So he puts his bishop here, looking at this diagonal, but he can never plant a piece here. Also, one day I might be able to play d5, but for now I think we want to prioritize castling. So let's develop our bishop just to get it out of the way and castle. He brings his knight out. It doesn't threaten anything, so we're going to continue with our plan. Now that our king is safe, we can focus on the center and our queenside minor pieces. So white goes for this fried liver style attack with knight g5. This double hits this, but I do not mind trading my rook for those pieces. So I don't even want to stop it if I could. If you play d5, which looks like a move you might want to play, and he takes, and you take, then he can take, then you can take, then he has one more attacker than you do. So it's not really justified just yet, probably. But we can play h6, attacking this knight, encouraging this bad move. Because otherwise, why'd he put his pawn here? He's going to have to go back. Maybe this way. Maybe he's going to take. How is this guy 1400? Or is this part of his plan? Does he think this is like an attack maybe? No, there's no way he thinks this works. Alright, so anyway, we can develop one of these pieces. You can throw the bishop here if you like. We can throw the knight here if we like. What do we want to do? I guess we'll go for the bishop one. If he takes and we take, it does weaken our light squares, but he just traded off his light squared bishop. He gave up his king's knight. The only thing that can attack the squares would be the queen, and I mean we can in one move just protect all the light squares with our queen. So, and it doesn't need protection because he's not coordinating on them. So anyway, he moves his queen up to connect the rooks. This defends the pawn. I'm not really sure. Maybe he wants to go probably here, if I had to guess. So yes, our queen. We're already up a piece, right? We just want to make sure he doesn't have any counterplay. If he does anything like this, hitting this pawn, I mean, he's not really threatening much else other than that pawn, so not a big deal. But what do we want to do? You could go like queen e8 and just get your queen over here. Let's just do that to keep things simple. Because we don't have a light square bishop, so our queen will act as a light square bishop. Just cover the light squares temporarily. This will be annoying if we can get our queen out to these active squares. We actually have pieces that might be able to coordinate with the queen, whereas his queen, it's not going to coordinate well here. And then we can develop our knight here at some point. Okay, so he moves his queen to a different square. This does not threaten a pawn, and this isn't a thing. If he goes here, I mean, you can defend this in so many ways, also not a thing. Also, we wanted to move our queen out, right, to one of these squares, so let's do that. This one kind of offers a queen trade soon. This one, I don't know, for some reason I kind of want to go to this one, feels more correct. If he moves the bishop, I get a queen trade. Also, this pawn is hanging, so if I take it, he can't take the bishop because the queen is hanging. If I take it, he takes it with the knight. Well, then that doesn't work, yeah. Okay, so he goes here. Not really sure why. Can't figure that out. This bishop is a little loose. That's one thing you want to watch out for in case you move this knight. However, you could move the knight with an attack on the queen, let's say, which is stronger. So if his queen is hit, then his queen would have to move. He doesn't have any checks. If his queen moves, his bishop is now hanging because of the discovery. So we could develop the knight, but tactics, right? Knight h5. Hits the queen and the bishop at the same time. It's a double attack. And it also opens up our rook. It also removes the pin. So it does a lot of good things. It also looks at the f4 square in addition to winning a piece. Okay, so he moves the queen out of the way, but now we just get a piece and offer the queen trade. Up 2 pieces, 2 minor pieces. So that's obviously game over against any opponent when your structure is so perfect like this. No queens on the board. And now he queen trades. And we have 2 good minor pieces. And that's why he reroutes his, which was pretty bad, right? It was dominated. So he moves it around. Looking at this square, which I do want to put my knight into. But first I want to complete development. So let's move this guy out. He's kind of slow. See, now he goes here offering this trade, but I'm not going to help him. I'm definitely going to put my knight here instead. And now his knight is trapped. I mean, it can go here, but... So now his knight is super awkward. You know, that's a decent move if I traded, but I don't have to trade. I expected him to attack this pawn because it is weak. Kind of, you know, asking to be targeted. But you have bishop back as well as pawn forward. I think just for simplicity and solidity, bishop back is fine. Like, what's my bishop doing here anyway? So now this is no longer a target by his rooks. He would have to include the knight, otherwise he has to sack a rook, which might be worth it at some point, because let's say this knight's not here and you take and I take. If his rooks were doubled, he could take, and even though I'm up material there, he ruins my structure here. He can win all these pawns, so it would definitely be worth a rook sacrifice. But instead he goes here, trying to break it down this way maybe. But I have this knight and I do want to improve it slash develop it. And the right way to do that looks like, let's just bring it here. He will likely attack it again, but my intention is to just hop it into his camp, which would be super annoying for him, because not only does it attack this pawn, but it stops these squares from his rooks. Very annoying. And he can't kick it with the G pawn because his knight's in the way. Okay, so he attacks my pawn, right? Because so his is hanging, but he has a stronger threat. But we could just take here, and it does ruin our structure, but it wins material. So let's take the pawn. He takes back. We can take... Well, we can take with the bishop because he doesn't have this move, right? And it also coordinates here with the knight. So there, and now these squares, obviously, the weaknesses on the light squares don't matter around the king. Hopefully that's pretty obvious. So he moves his rook here, but it defends. It's kind of awkward, potentially walking into something if he puts his pieces weird. Now we have rooks we need to get in the game. This A rook, we need to improve it. We need to give it a job. So let's do that. And now we have access to this B file. Much stronger piece. And, okay, so he moves his pawn. Obviously, there's no significance to this. So, just a simple plan to show you guys is something like, just put your bishop here so that this pawn protects the bishop protects the pawn, so now they're self-sufficient. And then you have this passed pawn, you can kind of just walk it up the board. I mean, you have so many different things you can do, but this is just a funny thing to do. And it's simple, like you don't have to think about anything. You just put the rook behind it, and you push the pawn. Okay, so he moves the knight here, which tries to offer the knight trade and break down this construction. So it makes sense. I mean, I'll just do it because I'm up 2 pieces. So now when he takes here, the bishop's not hanging, right? So I'm just going to go back with tempo. Reestablishing my same position. Still up 2 pieces. And still with my plan of pushing. So he lines this up with the king, but clearly he has no other pieces. So there's no attack. Also, checks, captures, and threats. And he'll probably resign. He does not resign. We're going to take with check, forking the other rook. And then look at this. His rook hangs. Now it's cut off. Now just as a joke, we were gonna throw in this check, force him here, and I was gonna make him waste some moves, like just back and forth. But we don't have to do that. Let's go through the game. So we play the Philidor with this move order, right? And now we hit him with e5, establishing our presence. We don't mind the pawn trade because we know the queen trade line is... We know the plans, it's easy to play, it's good for black. If he pushes, also good for black. All we have to do is challenge it, the central pawn with a flank pawn. So there we go. Now he shouldn't take, but he does take. And what happens is, right now he has a strong pawn here, but by taking he loses that strong pawn. But I didn't lose my c pawn because I replaced it. And the c pawn is super important in covering, making sure this is not a hole on d5. So now black's perfectly fine here, and we have good control over the center. And then we develop king safety, king safety. Now we encourage this because taking the rook and the pawn is not as good as taking the knight and the bishop. So we provoke him because otherwise, why is your knight here? You just have to go back, and then it'll be my turn again. But he hangs the knight, which is terrible. So we take it, free stuff. And then development in the center. And then forced move. And notice these pawns very strongly control his light squares, which is nice. So he doesn't have anything really to do with this knight ever. And this is development. Improving a piece with tempo, because knight h5 is a game-winning threat even though the game is already won. So you're improving a piece for free. He does not stop the threat. We continue with the threat. Basically winning another piece. So free stuff, force move, and then still move 17. We're developing towards the center. And now when people offer you trades, it's usually because they want you to trade. If they didn't want you to trade, they wouldn't let you trade. So consider not trading. Consider moving somewhere else and seeing if that's good for you and how his piece is on the new square. So his piece is really bad here, so I don't want to trade and open up his rook. So I move it to a better square. And then now we're move 19, so we have to play pretty concretely at this point. Move by move, so we defend our pawn. we improve our piece with intentions of this. So like we want to jump in here, and it also makes sure his knight can't move. So that's a lot of stuff. We kind of provoked this because we wanted to go here anyway with the attack. But then he just hangs a pawn, so free stuff. Force move. And now, move 24, we're still improving our piece, getting our last piece in the game. And now you could have gone many different ways. Infiltrated with the rook, here, here. You could have moved this rook somewhere. You could have doubled on the b file. You could have focused on this square by doubling on the f file. You could have been flexible and just lifted one of your rooks one square so he doesn't know which way you're going. But I just chose this easy plan of solidifying the bishop and pushing the passed pawn with the rook support this way. It looks like he can't stop it, kind of. So then he goes for this, but my plan is still on. And now he just blunders a fork, so you don't need to continue about a plan. Plans are only good when your opponents play good moves. Otherwise, tactics will usually decide the game at some point. So there you go, Mikhail Chernov, one of these surviving Chernobyl people. Played a good game. Submit your rapid games in my Discord. Good luck in your chess.